So before we get started here, I forgot to mention beforehand that in this particular episode, we're going to delve into some spoilers, specifically with the ending of the movie, the post-credit sequences, the cameos, and all, and other elements of the film. So, if you don't want to be spoiled by this, please stop watching right now. Go see the film, and then come back and listen to my review for it. But if you saw the film, or if you just want to hear my thoughts on it and don't care if you get spoiled or not, let's talk about the Marvels.
Entering the jump point perimeter.
I'm gonna get you some readings, Fury. Hello?
Monica.
Hello?
Captain Rambo?
Is this an Avengers test?
Where's Captain Rambo?
This week I'm talking about the movies with the Marvel Cinematic Universe ending what may be one of its worst years of recent memories. Can the Marvels surpass all the negativity coming into the week and actually turn into something that actually is much better than a lot of people expect? Well, prepare to be surprised by what I have to say. Let's talk about the Marvels this week on Talking About the Movies. Welcome to another edition of Talking About the Movies, where we talk about the biggest new releases of the weekend. You might be wondering why the light is on in the background. I'm actually recording this on Saturday night because I have an event I have to be a part of tomorrow, so I'm not going to be able to do tomorrow being Sunday. So that's why I'm doing this tonight, and it's going to be posted tomorrow afternoon, Sunday afternoon. So either way, basically I'm recording this a day before it actually comes out, which is not what I usually do, but under the circumstances I'm dealing with right now, that's exactly what we're doing right now. So with that said, let's talk about the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is, of course, The Marvels, the sequel to Captain Marvel, the latest film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the basic story of this film is that you have, once again, Brie Larson returning as Carol Danvers. Captain Marvel, she has reclaimed her identity from the tyrannical Kree and has taken revenge on the Supreme Intelligence, but unintended consequences see Carol shouldering the burden of a destabilized universe when her duties sent her to an anomalous wormhole linked to a Kree revolutionary. Her powers become entangled with that of Jersey City superfan Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel, and Carol's estranged niece, now Saber astronaut, Captain Monica Rambeau. Kamala Khan, of course, being played by Iman Vellani from the Miss Marvel TV series, and Monica Rambeau, played by Teyonah Parris, who played the role in WandaVision. And, needless to say, there was a lot of controversies coming into this film. Marvel Studios right now is currently in a situation that it hasn't been in. It's been building up since the pandemic started, and they've been able to mostly get away with it for a number of years. They've had successes over the last couple of years. This year, however, was the real straw that broke the camel's back. The year started off poorly with them with Quantumania, which did not become the big hit that they were hoping for, as that was supposed to set up the next big baddie in Jonathan Majors as Kang, which they had already introduced in Loki, but this was supposed to be the film that was supposed to introduce him as the next big baddie after Thanos. But then Jonathan Majors got assault charges put on him, and it's not looking good for his future with that series. And it's basically creating a whole lot of problems in terms of where the storyline goes from here. Not to mention that Secret Invasion was a huge misfire of $300 million. You spent $300 million on this for Disney Plus, and it was one of the lowest rated, poorly rated shows in Disney Plus history. Their only big success this year was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and it worked mostly because it wrapped up that storyline, but it also was mostly self-contained. It didn't have to rely on the other MCU movies or TV series to circulate into it, and basically Disney and Marvel right now are kind of in crisis mode right now, and even with this movie coming out, there was a lot of concerns about the film not doing well. It's not going to do well right now because the film has had some problems in terms of marketing, and the early word of mouth coming out of it from people was said to be bad. A lot of people that saw the trailers for it were not too keen on it per se, but and Disney was kind of already expecting this to fail, and it's already causing problems in the future with the MCU because in the last couple of weeks, mostly because of the actors' strike, they've moved a lot of their movies around. Just recently, Deadpool 3 was officially confirmed as the only movie coming from the MCU in 2024 in July, and Captain America Brave New World, which is supposed to star Anthony Mackie, has been pushed back to 2025, along with a couple of other movies that were supposed to come out in 2024. The Blade movie got pushed back again, so they're currently in a crisis situation right now. We talked about this over on the Reviewing Network Live. If you want to go check that out on the other channel. But, so there was a lot of concerns going into this particular movie, and but then all of a sudden the word of mouth started to change a little bit as the week went on. The first reviews came out, mostly Twitter review, mostly social media reviews, and they were very positive. And even the early reviews coming out from most critics, it was kind of a mixed bag. Like, some people liked it, some people didn't like it. I think as of right now, it's just on the cusp of a positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, which, again, is something I don't usually like to use in terms of these situations, but 62% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. The cinema score is a B right now, which isn't that great. It tied for the lowest score of the MCU, but audience reaction overall has been fairly positive at 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, but again, Rotten Tomatoes is not usually the best place to go to here, so naturally going into this, I had my concerns, mostly because of not just what was going on, but what happened with the first Captain Marvel film, which I did not think was that great of a film. I like the character of Captain Marvel. I like Brie Larson in that role. I like the idea of what they were trying to do in the first film. I just don't think they had the right mechanics to really give her that opportunity to really branch out like they did with Black Panther. Someone made a good point when I talked about this on a Facebook group, saying that Black Panther had the benefit of being introduced in Captain America Civil War, and then they branded him, and then they gave him his own storyline within Black Panther. Captain Marvel's basically coming into this on her own, and immediately after this, she becomes a huge part in Avengers Endgame in stopping Thanos, and so almost immediately they pretty much set her up within a couple, not even 2 months after, in between Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame, that you kind of have to know who this person is because she is such a critical part of the storyline, and I think that was a big mistake on their part, and the movie didn't end up. It wasn't a bad movie per se. It was just a very mixed bag of a film, and just a number of different elements in there that just didn't work together when it was all said and done. So naturally, I was going to this with a little bit of some concern, and I was ready to finally see what everybody was talking about. I was ready to be like, okay, everybody who's been getting at me because I was too harsh on the Flash. You're gonna get your comeuppance because here comes the Marvels. Everybody's not gonna like it. Everybody's gonna hate. Everybody's going to be pandering me to say something bad about it, and so here it goes. Sure enough, as soon as I came out of the theater, yeah, you're probably not. Is those people who were waiting for me to trash this and finally say goodbye to the MCU at this point, prepare to be disappointed, because not only did I think this movie was actually good, this is actually a much better movie than Captain Marvel, which, again, really isn't saying a whole lot, but I had a blast watching this movie, man. I mean, I had a real good time watching this film. And I think mostly because, I think to me, I kind of already had an idea of where everything was at this point in terms of, like I knew who Miss Marvel was because I watched the Miss Marvel TV series, which I really liked a lot. I knew who Monica Rambeau was because of the first Captain Marvel film and what she was doing in WandaVision. And of course, I knew who Captain Marvel was because I saw the first Captain Marvel film, and I think one of the things that really gave me a little bit of a sigh of relief right away is that, unlike Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where they kind of rushed everything out pretty quick, whereas they rushed the storyline pretty quickly to get to the point, they do this again here because this is not a very long film. It's just a little over 2 hours long, but unlike in Quantumania, there aren't as many distracting elements to it that could make you really take you out of the film altogether. But everything kind of moves along at a good enough pace where you get a gist of what's going on. Basically what happens is that Carol basically on this planet ends up touching this anomaly at the same time that Monica does. And also around that same time, Camilla has this band that she has on from the TV series, and it starts glowing on her, and as soon as they all touch it, they all start switching their powers. Like, I guess what they explain in the movie is that basically the energy that they use whenever they're fighting. Every time they fight somebody, they will automatically switch over to another person altogether, which makes for a lot of really cool, fun, creative action sequences throughout the course of the film. Seeing, like, in one moment you'll see Captain Marvel fighting somebody, and then when she punches somebody, the next person you see is Monica, or maybe the next one it's going to be Kamala Khan. Like, I thought that was a really cool concept. It does create some very unique and interesting action sequences throughout the course of the movie, and it does a pretty good job of balancing all these storylines together in terms of giving these characters a purpose for coming together. And right away, you really do buy into their chemistry together, the camaraderie that they have between each other, like being kind of forced into this team setup that they're in. And it makes for a lot of great fun elements of the film. I really like seeing Larson, Paris, and Villani together. I think they do a very good job of handling that chemistry between one another. Some people really didn't like the fact that Kamala Khan really has it hard for Captain Marvel. Like, everyone kind of was like, she's going a little bit overboard here, don't you think, guys? And then you basically want to tell those guys, when Peter Parker did that in the Spider-Man movies with Tony Stark, that really wasn't a big deal to anybody. So why is it any different with this? I mean, it's really not that different. It might be you might be taking it a little bit too overboard, maybe, but at times, but it's never to a point where it doesn't feel is out of the ordinary, or something that feels like it's kind of out of the norm for what we've already established with Kamala Khan. In fact, the movie right away kind of gives you this idea of this being taking place in the same universe as Miss Marvel, because you get these animated paper sequences when she's drawing on that. They're talking about her dreams of hanging out with Captain Marvel, with Carol and all that. And and over the course of the movie, they have these scenes where it looks like shots from a comic book too, which actually really does work to the film's advantage at times. It also does a good job of also kind of handling the more comedic moments and the more dramatic moments. I mean, there's not a ton of dramatic moments. There is a little bit of a running storyline involving Carol and also Monica Rambeau, because Monica has been waiting for Carol to return, and she never was able to do so. And because of there's also a storyline about Monica's mother, who we find out ends up dying of cancer, once again played by Lashana Lynch from the first film. And I thought they did a pretty good job of handling that. Even though it is kind of rushed a little bit, it never feels like it's being forced into you, and you really do buy into the situations that they're all in. Like, you really do believe that Carol feels very guilty about not telling Monica about her being back for that one time that her mother was dealing with cancer. And then you also have to deal with a lot of the situations involving how to bring Camilla into the situation, and how to make it all feel genuine and never feel like it's being forced in a way where these three have to come together at some point. They also found a way to actually bring in the family of Kamala Khan into this pretty well for the little bit of the scenes that they're in. And Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury, once again, is a ton of fun here. I will say this, though. This kind of makes the Secret Invasion miniseries that came out earlier in the year feel really, really pointless, because you really could watch this and not watch Secret Universe, and you would have not missed a thing whatsoever. That's the sad thing about the Secret Invasion miniseries that I really did not like as a whole. I did not like the fact that it felt pointless. It felt like it was a pointless subplot to the storyline that they were setting up in the MCU. And I think I remember hearing that this was supposed to be the sequel to Captain Marvel, Secret Invasion was, but they made it its own miniseries. And I think that may have been a big mistake on their part, but like I said, I like the balance of comedy and drama. The comedic moments are surprisingly really good. Like, I was actually really surprised at how much I was laughing at times during this movie. Like, there's a part where they reach the planet of Aldana, and if we find out that Captain Marvel has actually been married to this other person, and on this planet, and everybody sings in like a Bollywood style at times a Bollywood style situation, and they all have to sing and have this big dance sequence in two different areas of the film. And like, it started off seeming like it was going to be really corny at times, but as it went along, I kind of bought into it. I thought it was actually a lot of fun watching that sequence. Plus, again, some really cool action sequences as well. Like, I like the idea that Camilla actually uses her scarf to actually beat up these bad guys when they attack, and it actually does work to the film's advantage. But again, but the moment I think that really cemented this movie for me to be like, okay, you guys have won me over big time. There's a subplot involving the character of Goose, the cat from the first movie, who has the tentacle powers, who has the tentacles coming out of his mouth all the time. And that was one of my favorite scenes that was one of my favorite moments from the first film, and it's in this movie again. But there's a point in the film where they basically what happens is that the space station that everybody is on, Nick Fury as well as Kamala's family and all that, they basically have to evacuate the plane, but they don't have enough ducks for them to get everybody out of there. So what happens is the cat actually is, I can't remember per se what happens, but like the cat ends up getting attached to these things that they eventually find. They say at first it's like a foreign oddity. I can't remember for certain what exactly it was, but basically what happens is that these things that start off like they look like little brains, quickly evolve into little cats with tentacle powers as well. And so they basically say, you know what? We're just going to use these to get everybody out of here. They're going to suck you up and eat you alive, but they will eventually get out as soon as you get away from the danger. And it leads into a hilarious montage where you have all these cats just eating all the scientists on board with the musical playing in the background. It was the moment that made me say, okay, you convinced me. This movie is friggin' amazing. I love this movie to death. But I will say this though, there are some things that I could touch on that kind of go against kind of things that I can go against with the film. So basically, some of my criticisms towards the film mostly come with the villain of the film. The villain is trying to remember her name, Darben, who's a Kree warrior revolutionary wielding an accuser's hammer and an identical bangle to Kamala's, who is trying to restore her homeland after a civil war. And she basically wants to go after Captain Marvel, calling her the Annihilator. And I mean, she's got a cool design. She's played by a really cool actress, Zoe Ashton, who is also hasn't been in anything of too much noteworthiness, but she's actually engaged to Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki. And like I said, she's got a really cool design overall, but her character really does not have much of a motivation. She just wants to watch everything burn because Captain Marvel caused her planet to be burned as well, and it's not really built up all that well at all. You don't really feel anything for this villain whatsoever, and it really hurts the character and the film in the long run because it doesn't really serve an actual purpose to why everybody has to come together for this. Like, this really needed a much better villain. And in recent trailers they were kind of setting her up to be kind of similar to Thanos in a way, but like she was a disciple of Thanos, kind of like in Simba's Pride, the Lion King direct-to-video sequel, where you had these people that wanted to be part of Scar's idea of how the Pride should be, and you had all these different storylines going on there, including the fact that he apparently raised a son while he was in the middle of doing that. But it kind of feels like they were going that route in this film, but they never really give her a real purpose to be there, except for the fact that she just wants revenge, and that's pretty much it. She's basically a one-note villain, and this isn't really a problem within the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. Just female villains in general are very, very hard to get right. I think the only time I've ever seen it work, there's a couple of times that I've very rarely seen it work, and 2 times recently in the last decade was Ava Green, who was in 300 Rise of an Empire and Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. I thought she was a good villain in 2 of those movies, but it's very hard to make a good female villain and written well enough to really make her stand out in the film. And here, I mean, this actress is doing the best she can, but she doesn't really have much of a motivation overall. Another thing that I will say that may go against the film is the fact that one of the things I was afraid of going into this was that the trailers that were coming out as of late were making it seem like you had to watch Captain Marvel, you had to watch WandaVision, you had to watch Miss Marvel to really get an idea of who these characters are before you really get to know what kind of a movie you're going into. It doesn't do it a lot, but it still does it enough where I would say that I think they needed to do a better job of handling the way to introduce these characters to people who have not been able to watch the Disney Plus shows, because you have to pay to watch the Disney Plus shows, obviously. And luckily, I have a Disney Plus subscription, so I have no problem following along with this because I've seen these shows already. But for an outsider coming in, this could get really, really distracting pretty quickly. It doesn't do it to a point where you notice it right away in the film and you can easily catch on to everything, but I think they need to do a much better job of kind of explaining everything about how we got to this point, instead of having the people go like, oh, you got to watch this or you got to watch this. But again, it didn't do it as badly as I thought it was going to do. I thought it was going to go to another level where it really wasn't going to work out to the movie's favor, but it doesn't just enough. But it definitely could. The script overall definitely needed another rewrite to kind of tie everything back together in a way that actually makes sense, and it doesn't feel like people who are outside of watching the shows on Disney Plus have an idea of what's going on. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in here that I really didn't like. I can't really think of anything else that I really have against the film. In terms of the visual effects, they weren't too bad. There were a couple of times, every once in a while, where there might have been a visual effect that doesn't look bad, but doesn't look great overall, but it certainly pales in comparison to watching like MODOK and Quantumania. That's still the bottom of the barrel for the MCU in terms of the visual effects. It's just like, come on, man, you could not have thought that was the best way to go around with this. I'll bring up the post-credit sequence too, because they do kind of set up teases for potentially some sort of spin-offs going on in the MCU, specifically with Kate Bishop from Hawkeye, which has Haley Steinfeld once again playing the character from that. And there's a scene in the sequence where Kamala goes out to find other heroes and form a new group, starting with Kate Bishop, and it kind of sets up potentially maybe a Young Avengers spinoff, or maybe something for the Avengers new set of Avengers films coming down the line. But the one I really want to get into here, and it's in the mid-credits sequence. There's no post-credits sequence, but in the mid-credits, it's basically what happens. I will put a thing at the beginning of this video to say that spoilers are here, because I forgot to put it in there beforehand. But so basically, what happens in the end of the movie? They defeat the bad guy. Kamala reclaims the bands, but she and Danvers use their combined powers to help energize Monica, who has to go back and close the hole in space from the other side, but it leaves her stranded in the process. And basically, Danvers flies over to Hala's son to use her power to restore it as part of another subplot that happens in the movie. So basically, what happens to Rambo is that she wakes up in a parallel universe, and she's actually greeted by an alternate universe of her mother, Maria, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she's actually the mantle of binary. When Monica sees her for the first time, she thinks that it's her actual mother. But as the scene goes along, you start to hear a voice that you may be familiar with. Now, this scene was actually spoiled for me from beforehand, because I came across the clip overall. And I thought that was pretty cool, what they were setting up. But basically, when I saw this on the big screen, and they actually showed who it was, basically, it's Hank McCoy, a.k.a. Beast, from X-Men. Kelsey Grammer as Beast, once again. When that moment happened, you should have heard my audience. Some people were actually literally screaming when they saw him there. It's just like they literally were screaming in shock, because they were just like, holy shit, that's Kelsey Grammer as Beast again. And of course, Kelsey Grammer was Beast in X-Men 3 The Last Stand. And it basically is setting up the idea that the X-Men are going to be more prevalent in the MCU, whether it's in this alternate universe, or there's going to be two different versions of the X-Men, one in the regular universe where Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel live in, or it's going to be this other storyline going on here. It's really, really cool to see. It was really, really cool to see Beast once again played by Kelsey Grammer, and I gotta say, man, he looked much better than I thought he was going to look from the clip that I saw early on YouTube. But in the movie, you can tell that he's definitely more CG than his performance in The Last Stand, but not in a way where it's distracting per se. It actually looks like you're watching the version from the animated series coming to life in this film, and Kelsey Grammer, I mean, what more can you say about Kelsey Grammer? Kelsey Grammer is one of the great actors working. I mean, like, he is a man that every time he puts his effort into something like this, he really gives it his all, even if it's something so terrible, like a movie like Money Plane. You can tell that he is putting his all into it and is putting a lot of effort into this. And it just gets me more excited to see what they'll do with the X-Men once they actually decide what to do in terms of where the movies go from here. But it does open the door for some really, really interesting setups going forward. Now, whether or not this will actually stick with the changes that they're doing right now, it's too soon to tell, but we will see what happens here. Right now, the focus is on Deadpool 3, and I'm going to be very curious to see how they actually, if they'll bring those elements into there, because Deadpool is going to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, it's going to be R-rated, so needless to say, there's a lot to look forward to with the MCU going forward, even with the changes going on there, even with the stuff behind the scenes. And bottom line here, I had a really damn good time watching The Marvels. It's not a perfect movie by any means necessary. It's not even one of the best MCU movies that I've ever seen. I mean, it's not even, I wouldn't even say it's one of the great films that they've done, but it's a lot better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. It's a ton of fun. The three leading actresses are great. The action sequences are very fun to watch. It balances out the comedy and drama very well. I had a real good time watching it. It's a good, fun time at the movies, and I think that's the best way to really sum up the film. I think it's a good, fun time overall. I think it's good. I think it's even a good paced film. I think it's a film that definitely deserves a lot more attention than I think a lot of people would have been giving it credit for. I do recommend it. I give this a thumbs up, a good thumbs up for a Saturday afternoon movie. Go out and see it. It's definitely worth the watch. And even if you didn't like even if you didn't like the first Captain Marvel, I think you could find a lot in this movie to really appreciate about it. I went into it with lower expectations than I probably would have asked for. Maybe that's the best way for me to go into these movies that I keep hearing a lot of bad things about, because lo and behold, you actually get another fantastic film with another really fun film, I should say. Fantastic, probably not the best word to say about this film, but it's a lot more fun than I think a lot of people give it credit for. So I do recommend checking it out. It's worth the watch, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I loved it. I like this movie a lot. Love's a little bit too strong, but I do like it enough to say it's definitely a lot better than the critics are letting on, and the haters, if you will, on social media let it on to be. It's a ton of fun. I had a good time with it. Definitely check it out. So as I said in Movie Stop, I'm not going to be able to see the new Hunger Games movie or Trolls Band Together this week. I will get around to it at some point. Hopefully, maybe next week or the week before that, between that break between Thanksgiving and the week I go to Comic-Con. But like I said, I have to work next Saturday, unfortunately, so I won't be able to see both of those movies next weekend. I'll try to get something out there for you. But even if I don't do it then, Good Burger 2 comes out on Paramount Plus in a couple weeks, so I'll probably make an episode about that one time. But it'll be a couple weeks before I actually get to another talking about the movies episode. Hopefully Thanksgiving weekend will be the next time I'll see you on this particular show with Wish, and then maybe Good Burger 2, or even if I'm lucky, maybe either Hunger Games, Trolls Band Together, or even Next Goal Wins, which is another movie I've been actually looking forward to checking out. But thank you guys for watching. If you saw The Marvels, do you think the critics are right on this? Do you think people are giving this movie too much flack for what it actually is? Did you actually have fun with it? Let me know your thoughts down below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time for the next episode. So until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. So until then, take care.